Hi, I'm Michael Black. I'm the Global Artistic Director for Hair Colour for Aveda globally.
So, Ian, how many countries have you educated in?
I couldn't really count them. I don't know. It's like Canada, United States, the UK, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, France, Spain, Italy, Germany, I know other European places, Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Singapore. I don't know. The list goes on and on. It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't think I should say my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I have favorites for different things, to be honest.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I love going to Italy because I love the food, but I love the people, I love the culture, I love the kind of laid backness of when you educate, and they have a passion that Italians have that's very special. I love going to Taiwan because it's I think it's a really great culture. I think that they're very artistic. I like going to Korea because they're very like just get things done.
Yep.
I like different places for different things. So it's kind of like there isn't one ideal, but if I could take a bit of all of it, put it all together, it would make an ideal.
Love it. How did you become the global artistic director for Hair Color?
Hard work.
That simple.
You know what? It's one of those things where, people always think that there's a path to something. And the only path for someone to get somewhere is their path, because everybody's path is going to be different. Like you kind of think, well, if I do this and then I do this and then I do this, then you get this. And it's not really like that. And I think it's, I always go, well, it was just a set of circumstances and a few doors that were like left ajar that I kicked open and me putting myself out there. But everybody's journey is going to be different. So there wasn't really I did this, did that, did that. It just all evolved. And, this job was created for me. So, but yeah, it's I always say, to be successful, and it doesn't matter whether you want to own a salon, it doesn't matter whether you want to be on the global artistic team, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Always show up and give 110%, because there's 1,000 people that will show up and give 90%. And it's kind of like you as you're along your path, everything is a learning opportunity, and I think we've spoken about this, I see a lot of people these days know your worth, but you have to realize that your worth is different in different situations. Absolutely. And there is so much you can learn just by being somewhere, and it's not a case of just being there, it's observing. It's like people are always like, how did you get so good on stage, or whatever. And you just go, well, actually, because I spent a lot of time watching other people, the way I would watch hair shows went from watching the hair to watching them. Mm-hmm. It's the same if you want to be a teacher. Go to as many classes, watch what they do. And it's not just, oh, that person does that really well. It's like, even if you don't like their style or you don't connect with them, or what are they doing that you don't? And it's like, take a bit of that and a bit of that and remember those lessons. This came across really well. This was really good. The way that they explained that was really good. Take these little bits and kind of make it into your own. And I think that's, and that's the thing. It's like you're constantly working on it. And, if you want to be successful, you have to constantly work on and improving and realize that you never get there.
Absolutely.
I was actually on a call the other day, and it was kind of about, people calling themselves a master. And I was like, I would never call myself a master because, one, I think it's something that other people bestow upon you, really. And I said, but the thing is, it's like the more I know, I don't know.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
It does make sense.
So when you get to that point where you think, well, if I know all this, I'll be a master. I'll have mastered it. And then you get to that point, but you realize there's so much more that you haven't learned about. So you realize you never get. It's like something you never get. But I always say to people, be consistent, be nice, keep your mouth shut.
That's a great one.
And it's like turn up early, leave late. Be the first there and the last to leave. And it's like, yeah, you're tired. Well, I'm tired as well. So, it's like, just get on. And also simple things, it's like, if you go and assist someone, I'm not, quite often I did something recently and I was like, the person that was assisting me, I said, what you have to understand is I am not colouring the hair for them to walk out of a salon. What I'm doing is I'm colouring their hair to represent something and look good on a video. And it's different. I have to think about different things. So it's like even things that seem very kind of basic, it's maybe not. And it's like all those little special things that you can learn.
Absolutely. All the little things make the difference.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. What is your favorite part of being in the industry?
The people, by far. The people. I think we are incredibly lucky we work in an industry where you can be whatever you want. We're not an industry, and this is, it's not like just the modern industry, it's like traditionally we're in an industry that's open to gender, it's open to sexuality, it's open to race, it's open to cultures, it's kind of like we are really, for the most part, incredibly open-minded and incredibly accepting and just see people as people. And I think that we all behind the chair have, it's like we've all, because we see so many personalities, we've seen a version of everything. I can tell a story about a client and everybody laughs because they've experienced that client. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. And so we've seen the kind of in a way, I always say we've seen the best of humanity and the worst,
I agree, yeah.
And we realise that people are just people. Plus, I always go, I think the other thing is we talk to each other on a daily basis in a very soundbite kind of way. So although you can be behind the chair, you're talking all day, but you're talking to your guests. And a lot of the time, we've all got 5 personalities. I've got my someone in front of me is young and cool. Somebody's the church mum. It's all that kind of different versions of our own personality. So when we're together, like when you're in the break room or you're mixing colour or whatever, it's very soundbiting because you're like, I've got 5 minutes to drink a coffee, make 3 phone calls, eat my sandwich, and have a conversation with you. And we can all do it. But it's very like, did you go on that date? Oh, yeah. And then I'm off.
To be continued.
So he was nice. So you've seen him again. And I'm off. It's like we're very to the point. We're quite honest with people. And I think we're very good judges of people. But I think that for me, the greatest thing about this job and this industry is the people. And in all the years I've done it, I have seen such little prejudice about anything. And to me, that's the space I want to live in, and it's kind of like, it doesn't, like I always kind of go, we were all the kids that weren't cool at school. Because, you always get that yeah. Like, all hairdressers, were we cool at school? No, because we were the late bloomers. But you know what? We bloomed as adults, so we fully formed into this much kind of wider kind of scope of a person. And I think that's the kind of beautiful thing. So definitely the best thing about it is the people.
Beautiful. Had you ever been to Winnipeg before your most recent visit to Verde?
No.
Why not?
You know what? It's like there's a lot of Canada I'd like to explore more, but it's always just finding the time, because it's just so, especially coming from England, where it's a very small, very, very densely populated country. I'm very fascinated by space because you just don't get it where I'm from. Yeah. And just driving for miles and miles and miles and miles, and there just being nothing. And also, I think Canada is really interesting because it is so snowy for the most part that it's kind of like two different worlds. There's like the winter world, but then the summer world is completely different.
Completely different. Completely.
It's like, it literally is like two sides of the coin. And I'm very fascinated by that. Do you know what I mean? That you're like this, because I'm always seeing things there in like the summer or something. And you're like, but this only exists for a certain amount of months a year. And then it's all gone. Like it's all covered. It's all like, and I find that very interesting.
Yeah. And that's just normal for us. That's funny. What did our team get to learn from you while you were here?
Oh, you'd have to ask them that question.
Oh, a lot.
I mean, hopefully, I think whenever I educate people, I just want them to get some ideas, be inspired, just go and try things. And also sometimes like just look at things in a slightly different perspective. It's like change your paradigm about, we were talking about what is a good appointment. That's changed over the last few years. It's like, you used to get those clients that would come in and it was like they would never leave. Do you know what I mean? They just want every service because they just want to hang out all day. And that still exists, but a lot of those don't want to anymore. And it's like we have to adapt. And I think, whatever it is, we just have to be adaptable because we work with people. So whether it's changing the services you do, whether it's thinking what is a good service to that person, all those kind of things. But for me, I think with educating, it's not like I don't want people to walk. Yeah, it's great. Oh, I taught you this technique. You can go and do it. But it's walking away with more of just kind of going, look a bit deeper. What does this person want from an appointment?
Love it.
It's like, do they actually even want to talk? And that's the other thing. It's like they feel compelled to talk. We feel compelled to talk. And do they actually even want to talk? Because this might be their rest from their life and it's the one thing they do for themselves. And we have to kind of look a bit deeper into people.
Why do you think continued education is so important for hairstylists?
Oh, I think continued education is everything. And I think for a lot of reasons. I think one, it's an industry that's constantly changing. There's new ideas, there's new technologies, there's new products, there's new... Also, nobody wants to feel stagnant in their job. But also, I think it's very important to give back to yourself because we are in an industry where you are standing there and I'm giving. And sometimes you need to replenish that bank. You can't just withdraw, you have to deposit as well. So I think it's very important to do education. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be just about hair. It can be about other things. But it's like that constantly, like I was saying, learning new things, but changing your perspective, all of those kind of things I think are very, very important to just keep yourself moving forward. Absolutely. Because you can go and be a hairdresser for the next 20 years and still do the same clients, still do the same thing, but you're going to be bored because you haven't introduced anything else. So I think it's as much about feeding your soul, as it were, as it is about learning new skills.
I love it. What advice would you give someone who's interested in hairstyling as a career?
Well, the first thing I would say is, do you like working hard? The second thing is I would say, do you have a good work ethic? Because if the answer is no to either of those, this is not the job for you. And I think it's an amazing career and you can do 1,000 things. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. People need their hair doing, it's like, I always say it's a bit like toothpaste. People will always want it, It's like,
I haven't heard that one before.
Things come and go, It's like, and jobs disappear. I have a friend that works for a newspaper in London. She writes the headlines, and she's like, my job won't exist in 10 years' time because the newspaper won't exist. So and even she said to me, she went, "You're fine. I mean, everybody's like everyone's going to stop doing their hair." But I think it is a hard job. It's hard physically because you're on your feet. It's hard mentally because you have to think about what to do to their hair. You have to talk to them, all these things. But it is an incredibly rewarding career. Like I've never, in all the years that I have done it, the look and the sense of someone when they love their hair, when you finish it and they're just like so happy, like that to me is what I'm in it for. Like, it's just that feeling never dies of them just going, you know what, I love it. Like, it just, because you see it lifts them.
It does.
And that, I think, is the biggest reward in the world, you know. And as I say, you can, especially for people starting out, and I say this a lot, it's a very weird industry where for essentially the same things, the charge for it can alter dramatically. So I always say to people, you know, you have a choice. Do you want to do a set of highlights for $100, or do you want to do exactly a set of highlights, same thing, for $300, $400, $500, whatever? You're doing the same thing. So the only difference is I have to step up me as a person in my service and how I deliver things and my professionalism. And I also have to work on, I need to be neat, I need to be clean, I need to be all these things. But essentially at the end of the day, but the payoff for me going, I need to be neater, 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 is, well, you know, if I'm working on commission and I get, I don't even know, let's say 50%, be lucky to get 50%, but 50%, you know, do I want 50% of 100 or do I want 50% of
Absolutely.
400? Because it's the same amount of time, the same amount of work. So you have to do it. And it is one of those jobs where you have to motivate yourself. But if you have all those qualities, you'll find it easy.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, it's like I sort of see my friends like groaning about going to the office and you're like, I don't know, hairdressers, like, oh, I've got to go to the salon. You know, they're all like, yeah, I'm off to work. You know, it's like fun because you work with people that you would hang out with.
Absolutely, it's like going to work and seeing your friends.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and it's a laugh. You know, and you do bond over it, and you have a good time and. It's hard work. It's tiring, but you know what every job is, and you have to motivate yourself. I think sometimes people always want other people to motivate them, and you're like, it's not a 9-to-5 job in that kind of sense. You know, it really is a job of it. It's what you make it.
It is.
You can make a fortune. You can make next to nothing. It's all up to you. It's just down to hard work and your attitude towards things.
Endless opportunities. That's what I love. What's been the most valuable experience in your career?
Well, I'm going to pick a couple of things. So one of them, I think, is traveling the world and doing hair in different places because the perspective, the aesthetics, the approach, everything is very, very different. So it's taught me a lot of different kind of ways of looking at things, doing things. I think one of the biggest lessons was I once snapped somebody's hair off when bleaching it. Which to this day still gives me palpitations when I think about it. But it taught me to, in a way, that was probably my best lesson because it really taught me to respect hair. Like, and you kind of go, I feel sorry for that person, but... You know, you kind of go, like that was a good lesson to respect hair. Also, you know, when I first started, I remember messing up a hair colour and I thought it's because I didn't really think it through properly. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. And it really taught me the value of kind of education and sometimes those very, you know, boring, fundamental things are actually the things that are they're really important and more important than you realise. So you have to pay attention to them. There's been a lot. You know, I mean, I think you're always learning. I think every day it's you learn something new. You know, and you know, in my job, I'm always learning new skills of who knew I could put a PowerPoint together, or who knew I could edit a video, or who knew I could art direct this, or who knew I could, you know, all these things. And so it's just kind of stuff you learn along the way, really.
Wonderful.
So, But they're some of the lessons.
Love it.
Here at Verde Salon, one of the pillars of our business is education. We believe that education empowers you to succeed, and that when you succeed as a stylist, we succeed as a business. We have 2 of Aveda's global artistic directors coming to our salon this year, and we just sent one of our stylists to work backstage at New York Fashion Week. To learn more about our paid education program and our amazing team culture, you can visit verdesalon.ca/careers.